There comes a moment when history and prophecy collide, when the veil is lifted and the unseen war erupts before our eyes. That moment is now. Have you felt it? A trembling beneath the surface of the world, a shaking in the spirit realm, a sense that something is about to break open, something ancient, something foretold, something eternal. We are standing on the threshold of revelation. What if I told you that what's unfolding right now was spoken of thousands of years ago? That the powers moving behind closed doors in governments, in wars, in ideologies were all foretold, and they are converging on one singular ground, one holy hill, the Temple Mount, the very ground where heaven and earth met. The epicenter of prophecy, the target of the dragon, the place where the final conflict will ignite. This is not politics. This is not history. This is destiny. A spiritual war is raging, and you were born for such a time as this. And so, let us uncover what the Spirit is revealing. Now hear these 4 prophetic keys. These are the truths you must not miss. So, what does this mean for you and for the days ahead? Here are 4 crucial revelations the ancient scrolls speak of it. The prophet of Patmos was shown a vision, a terrifying image that has echoed through the corridors of time. He wrote, "And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads." Revelation 12:3. That dragon is not a myth. It is not a metaphor. It is a power ancient, real, and deadly, and it has awakened. We are watching a world unravel, but what we are seeing is not chaos, it is precision. The chaos is orchestrated, the confusion is planned. The dragon has stirred from his ancient lair, and his eyes are set on dominion. He is ancient, yet he is moving in modern forms. His voice is cloaked in culture, in ideology, in politics, in technology, but make no mistake. It is the same voice that whispered to Eve, the same voice that roared in Babylon, the same force that crucified the Lamb. What is unfolding is not random. The dragon is strategic. He has always been. From the beginning, his war was against the image of God. And where is that image now? In you, in humanity, in the covenant, in the chosen people, in the body of Messiah. His rage is not against the earth, it is against the heirs of heaven. And now, in this hour, he knows his time is short. Look around and see. Can you feel it in the Spirit? Can you discern the signs? The floodgates of darkness are opening. Morality is inverted. Truth is trampled. Evil is called good, and good is vilified. Children are confused. Nations are divided, and light is labeled hate. These are not random social shifts. These are the dragon's footprints. He is slithering through the systems of man, through schools, through governments, through media, through movements, weaving his venom into hearts and minds. Revelation 12:9 says, "The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. This is his nature, deception. He leads by lies. He conquers by illusions." He doesn't need thrones when he has minds. He doesn't need armies when he has ideologies. He doesn't need chains when he has compromise. He doesn't come breathing fire, he comes whispering tolerance. But what he tolerates is sin, and what he destroys is righteousness. He is ancient, but he adapts. In Rome, he wore the crown of empire. In Babel, he built a tower of pride. In the modern world, he cloaks himself in progress. He comes through screens, through headlines, through trends. He paints sin as freedom and holiness as bondage. He targets the foundation: marriage, gender, truth, covenant, Israel, and the very image of God. And with every lie embraced, the dragon coils tighter. But what is his aim? Why now? Because prophecy is moving. Because time is accelerating. Because Israel is back in her land. Because Jerusalem is trembling. Because the gospel is reaching the ends of the earth, and because the return of the king is drawing near. The dragon always stirs when the throne is near. When Messiah came the first time, the dragon moved through Herod. When Messiah comes again, he will move through the beast. Revelation tells us this, that the dragon will give his power to the beast, that the world will worship the image, that a mark will be required to buy and sell. Sound familiar? We are not yet there, but we are approaching. The systems are forming. The conditioning is happening. The pieces are being aligned. The spirit of the dragon is preparing the way for the man of lawlessness. And the people of God must be awake. We must not be naive. We must not be silent. We must not bow. You were not called to run from the dragon. You were called to stand against him, not in your strength, but in the authority of the Lamb. For the Lamb has already overcome. The blood has already been shed. The tomb is already empty. And the Word says, they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives even unto death. Revelation 12:11. The dragon has awakened, yes. But greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. The war is real, but the victory is already sealed. The storm is coming, but so is the king. So let the dragon rage, let the world shake. Let the darkness fall, because when the dragon rises, so does the standard of the Lord, and that is the hour we are in now, an hour of decision, of courage, of truth. You cannot be neutral, you cannot be asleep. The dragon is not sleeping, neither can you. There is a piece of land on this earth, smaller than most cities, humbler than the capitals of empires, yet it is the most contested, most sacred, most explosive ground in all creation. It has no oil, it holds no great wealth. Yet kings have fought for it, empires have fallen over it, and armies have marched to claim it. It is the Temple Mount, the hill of Moriah, and it is no ordinary place. It is the place where heaven touched earth. From the beginning, this mountain was marked by divine purpose. It was here that Abraham raised the knife over his son, and God stopped his hand, foretelling the Lamb that would one day take our place. It was here that David wept and built an altar when judgment struck the land. It was here that Solomon built the temple, the dwelling of the Most High, the glory in the midst of Israel. It was here that the fire of God fell. And it is here that prophecy will converge again. The Temple Mount is not just geography. It is prophecy. It is not just a historical landmark. It is the spiritual center of the universe. The Bible does not say the law would go forth from Rome or Babylon or Washington. It says, the law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Isaiah 2:3. The Temple Mount is the place where God's covenant met with man's obedience. It is where sacrifice spoke of redemption. It is the place ordained for glory. But the enemy knows this. The dragon knows this. That is why from age to age he has sought to possess this hill. He seeks to desecrate what is holy. He seeks to occupy what is divine. And so, even now, the Temple Mount stands as a powder keg, a spiritual battlefield cloaked in political tension. Nations rage, powers threaten. One spark can ignite a global fire. And yet, the world looks with carnal eyes, seeing only land, politics, and religion. But the eyes of the Spirit see beyond. What is at stake is not just a city, not just a mosque or a wall. What is at stake is destiny. Why is this mountain so central in the last days? Because it was chosen. Because prophecy cannot be fulfilled without it. The Temple Mount is the stage upon which the final drama must unfold. It is the hill to which Messiah will return. It is the throne ground of the coming king. Zechariah prophesied, on that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, and the Lord will be king over all the earth. Zechariah 14:4-9. The Mount of Olives stands just across from the Temple Mount. That entire area is the axis of the end-time convergence. But before the king returns, the counterfeit will come. The Bible reveals a mystery that in the end a false peace will be declared, a covenant will be made, and the temple will be rebuilt. Sacrifices will return, but not in purity. For the Antichrist, the man of lawlessness, will defile the holy place, exalting himself above God. This is the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel and confirmed by Yeshua himself. And where will this desecration happen? On the Temple Mount. Do you see now why the mount matters? Why the enemy is obsessed with it? Why history has revolved around it, because it is not about politics. It is about prophecy. It is not about religion. It is about kingdom. The struggle for the Temple Mount is a struggle for the throne, not the throne of man, but the throne of God. The enemy seeks to sit where God sits, to rule where God reigns, but he will not prevail. Even now we see the nations gathering, aligning. The focus is intensifying. The enemy stirs hatred around that hill, but in doing so, he is fulfilling what was written. The mount is trembling again. The cries of worship, of tension, of prophecy, they all echo from its stones, and yet the world is asleep, blind to what is unfolding before their eyes. But you are not called to be blind. You are not called to be numb. You are called to discern, to watch, to understand the times. For if the Temple Mount is the epicenter, then the shaking that begins there will not stay there. It will ripple across the world. What happens on that hill will affect every nation, every kingdom, every people. And it will affect you. The Lord chose that mountain as his dwelling. The enemy has chosen it as his target. But prophecy is not in the hands of man or devil. It is in the hands of the sovereign, and the mount will once again be filled with glory. The king will come, and he will set his feet on the Mount of Olives, and the mountain will split, and he will take his place in Jerusalem. Until then, the battle will rage. But now you know the Temple Mount is not just sacred ground. It is the heartbeat of prophecy. It is the epicenter of the end, time shaking, and it is calling. We are living in a world at war. A war of ideologies, of culture, of nations, of powers and principalities. But if you think this war is political, you are already deceived. If you believe it is left versus right, east versus west, one party versus another, you've already missed it. The war is deeper, older, darker, and greater. The final war is not political, it is prophetic. It is not born in human councils, it is rooted in ancient scriptures. It is not about who sits in a parliament or a palace, it is about who sits on the throne of the universe. The war we are seeing unfold has been written for thousands of years. The prophets spoke of it with trembling. The apostles warned of it with urgency. The Spirit cries out even now for the watchmen to awaken, because the time is short and the deception is great. The enemy does not care about elections, he cares about altars. He doesn't tremble at protests, he trembles at the prayers of the righteous. This is a war for souls, for truth, for eternity. We are witnessing a global shaking, but it's not just political chaos. It's the birth pains of the last days. Nations rise against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms, but the Word said it would be so. What you are seeing in the natural is only the surface. Beneath it all, the ancient battle rages. The battle that began in Eden, the battle that spilled into the heavens in Revelation 12, when Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, that battle has never stopped. It has only changed form. In every generation, the enemy disguises the war. He cloaks it in robes of law, in debates of culture, in movements of the masses. But always, always he is after the same thing, the Word of God, the image of God, the people of God, and the plan of God. And in the final days, it will come into the open. The war is not about freedom of speech, it's about the silencing of truth. The war is not about tolerance, it's about the erasure of holiness. The war is not about gender or identity or politics, it's about rebellion against the Creator. And the enemy is moving swiftly, seducing hearts, blinding eyes, dulling consciences until even believers cannot see what is plain before them. But the Scriptures have not been silent. The Lord spoke through Paul. The Spirit expressly says that in later times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. 1 Timothy 4:1. This is not a suggestion, it's a warning. The spirits have already been loosed. The doctrines have already entered the churches. The deception is already here, and it is growing. We live in an hour where truth is dangerous, where to speak the word of God is to risk being labeled, where righteousness is called hate, and sin is called brave. This is no longer the drifting of culture. This is the uprising of darkness. The dragon is preparing the world for the reign of the beast. And in order for the world to accept the lie, it must first reject the truth. That is why the battle is intensifying, but again, this is not political. The enemy is not Democrat or Republican, conservative or progressive. The devil is not running for office, he is preparing for a throne. And the final war will not be settled by votes, but by the fire of heaven. The Bible tells us of a day when the nations will gather against the Lord and against his anointed. That is not metaphor, that is not poetry, that is prophecy, and it is already beginning. Jerusalem will be the cup of trembling, Israel will be the burden, the nations will rage, the beast will rise. The false prophet will deceive, the mark will be offered, and the world will worship the image of the beast not by force at first, but by desire. And yet, most of the world will not even realize what is happening. Because they believed it was political, because they were watching the surface and never saw the depths. But you must see deeper. You must see with the eyes of the Spirit. The shaking of economies, the rise of globalism, the merging of religion and technology, the persecution of the faithful, these are not coincidences. These are the alignments of prophecy. These are the movements of the enemy as he prepares for his last stand. And here is the truth few will say. This war is not coming, it has already begun. It is not something we wait for, it is something we are living in. You are already on the battlefield. The question is not whether you will fight, the question is whether you will stand. Will you compromise for comfort? Will you trade truth for acceptance? Will you bow to the culture or stand for the king? The war is not about who rules a nation, it's about who rules your heart. It's not about who governs the earth, it's about who governs the heavens. The enemy wants your silence, your surrender, your soul. But the Spirit of God is calling not for warriors of flesh, but for vessels of fire, for those who will not be bought, who will not bend, who will not break. This is the hour, this is the war, and it is not political, it is prophetic. Before you were born, before your first breath, before your name was ever spoken on this earth, it was spoken in heaven. You were known, you were appointed, you were chosen, not by accident, not by circumstance, but by divine purpose. You are not here now by coincidence, you are here because this is the exact moment in history God chose for you to live, to rise, and to shine. The darkness is great, yes. The times are perilous. The nations are shaking. The world is unraveling, but you were not created to fear these days. You were born for these days. Heaven wrote you into this hour not to run from it, but to confront it. Not to hide from the storm, but to stand in the midst of it as a voice of truth, as a vessel of fire, as a light in the midnight hour. The prophets long to see what you see. The angels watch with awe. Because the final pages of the story are being written and you are living in the script, you are not a spectator, you are not background, you are called, you are chosen, the same God who chose Moses to stand before Pharaoh, who called Esther to stand before the king, who anointed Elijah to challenge the prophets of Baal, who called John the Baptist to prepare the way, that same God is the one who placed you here now. He saw this generation, he saw the shaking, he saw the rise of darkness, the compromise of the church, the confusion of the nations, and he didn't panic. He looked through the corridors of time, and he chose you. You are not weak, you are not small, you are not helpless, you are not forgotten, you are an answer to this generation. You carry the same Spirit that raised Messiah from the dead. You bear the seal of heaven. You are the weapon in the hand of the Most High. This is not the hour for passive faith. This is not the time for lukewarm Christianity. The days of casual belief are over. The battle is raging. The dragon is moving. The lines are being drawn, and you must decide where you stand. You cannot straddle the fence. You cannot live with one foot in the kingdom and one in the world. The call is sounding, and it is a call to awaken, to rise, to burn. The enemy has tried to convince you that you're not enough, that you're too broken, too wounded, too young, too old, too ordinary. But God does not call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And he has called you, not because of your strength, but because of his. Not because of your record, but because of your surrender. All he needs is a heart that says yes. You were not placed in this hour to blend in. You were placed here to stand out. You are a watchman on the wall, a voice in the wilderness, a remnant rising. You were placed in this moment to speak when others are silent, to stand when others bow, to pray when others sleep, to believe when others doubt. You were not created to reflect the darkness. You were created to reflect the glory of the one who called you out of it. The war is real. The stakes are eternal. But the victory has already been written. The Lamb has overcome. The tomb is empty. The King is coming. And you are part of his army, not armed with swords of man, but with the truth of the word, the power of the Spirit, and the authority of the name above all names. You were chosen not just to survive, but to overcome, not just to endure, but to advance. In the book of Acts, the early disciples were called those who turned the world upside down. They had no buildings, no wealth, no platforms, no power, but they had fire. And that fire changed everything. That fire still burns. It has not gone out. It is available to you now, but it doesn't fall on the distracted. It doesn't fall on the complacent. It falls on the hungry, the desperate, the surrendered. This generation doesn't need more influencers, it needs more intercessors. It doesn't need more entertainers, it needs more evangelists. It doesn't need more compromise, it needs more conviction. And that is why you're here. You carry something this generation needs. The Spirit of God inside you is greater than every agenda of darkness outside of you. You are a temple of the Holy Spirit. You are a carrier of truth. You are a warrior of the kingdom. You were not made for this world. You were made for the glory of God. And this is your hour, not to shrink back, but to rise up, not to be silent, but to shout, not to hide, but to shine. God did not choose Moses when Egypt was calm. He chose him when the people were enslaved. He did not call Esther when the palace was peaceful. He called her when genocide was decreed. He didn't anoint David when the field was safe. He anointed him when a giant was taunting the army. You are not here for peace. You are here for battle. You are not here for comfort. You are here for glory. You were chosen for this hour.